Good morning, everyone. At this time, I'll call the Crow Wing County Regular Board Meeting for December 28, 2021 to order. If you'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. A little bit of change in the order of business today.
County Regular Board Meeting, December 28, 2021 to order. We'll grant the Pledge of Allegiance.
I don't like to hear myself speak that much. Okay.
I need to do roll call too.
Therese, if you'll do roll call, please.
Commissioner Coring,
Here.
Commissioner Brecken,
Here.
Commissioner Barrows,
Here.
Commissioner Franzine. Here. Commissioner Hogue.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to have open forum. This is the time for anyone who wants to speak on any subject matter not related to the printed agenda. The folks that are here for the election process discussion, immediately following our regular open forum, Attorney Ryan will do his presentation, and then you folks will have the opportunity to respond or speak to whatever the input is or what Don has to say. So with that, I will open forum. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on something other than the printed agenda? Yes, sir. If you'll come up and give to the microphone, give your name and where you live.
I think it's election.
He can come right to this one standing here.
Thank you.
Either one.
Either one. I'd like to sit down. That's good.
Okay.
That's our next step.
So a reminder that there is a 3-minute time limit on this, and if you'll give us your name and where you live.
Steve Rolfsmeyer, I don't think I can cover it in 3 minutes.
Do your best.
Brent Anderson, the local Remax Realtor, has deforested 6.2 acres of a 200-year-old forest connected to Highway 371. This environmental crime involves cutting down the eagle nesting area, the great horned owl nesting trees, and the pileated woodpecker nesting area is gone. Brent, the Remax Realtor, has evicted the entire population of birds next to a wetlands area and within a forest that once was, all in the name of personal gain. I thought that certain birds were protected by the government, but apparently not. When I asked for an environmental impact assessment worksheet copy on what was reported from Land Services prior to the deforestation, Jake, the environmental supervisor, come across as he didn't want me to know what's on that report, or he didn't want me to know of that report on how a deforestation of this magnitude will affect the environment. When I asked Jake what his job entailed as environmental supervisor, he told me that they keep the trash out of the wetlands. But how about control over the rest of the environment? Like the lakes, full of cistern debris and the beautiful forest that was home to thousands of birds and mammals. If an environmental impact assessment wasn't filled out as a requirement, all employees associated with this crime at Land Services should be terminated from their jobs with negative reviews for that person's next job, so they can't tear down a forest in a similar job. Also, the titles of environmental this and that should be removed from a position that is non-environmental. This is confusing to the public when somebody like myself tries to seek help from a non-environmental government office. My first call to Land Services was to report thousands of mammals and birds coming through my yard to escape Brent Anderson's burning of the huge nest and shelters with winter coming on. Brent also burned down the food supply for all wildlife, 6.2 acres of food, and thanks to Land Services for the permit to destroy the environment and starve the wildlife. I told the lady answering the phone at Land Services about the protected birds and mammals losing their homes and food supply, and she responded, and quote, "Well, they'll just have to look for new homes," she said, this with winter coming on. Jake, the so-called environmental supervisor, said it's legal for a property owner to deforest an area like this, even with the eagles, owls, and pileated woodpeckers.
I'm going to have to stop you. The 3 minutes are up, and I do think that I have a pretty good handle on what you're addressing and the piece of property that you're addressing on 371. So I thank you, and if you want to submit that to the staff, we'll be more than happy to take a look at it.
Well, let me just skip to page 17, if I don't have any time. I recommend that all building be discontinued on 371 permanently, and this area be reforested, purchased by Crow Wing County. He's got a lot of other things going on, pollution-wise. He's left a big hole there. Each tree gives off enough oxygen to support 4 people in a hyperbolic chamber. Now I've got to smell pollution and fumes. I moved out of Nebraska because I didn't want to smell the nitrates and pesticides there, but this is worse now with auto fumes, with 10,000 cars going by a day.
All right, well, thank
Totally
you.
polluted the neighborhood.
Thank you, sir.
Will you vote on no construction on 371 permanently?
During open forum, we generally don't respond and we don't vote on anything. It may come up on a future meeting, and it certainly will be looked at.
You'll have all the forest gone then after a while,
Thank you.
if you don't discontinue it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak during open forum on a subject other than what's on our printed agenda? Yes, sir? If you'll give us your name and where you live?
Mark Melanowski, and I'm a supervisor at the St. Matthias Township Board. And I'm here to speak on the behalf of the agenda of this next year of the road being repaired, the Sleepy Hollow Road.
I'm sorry, which road?
Sleepy Hollow.
Okay.
I already talked to Paul Coring, called and talked to him last week and everything, and notified me about today being able to give on what the people in the community of the St. Matthias think about the plan and how the road is going to be repaired. And the information that I have gotten from Paul and also the county engineer, everything like that, we do not believe that is what should be done. It should be done more because of the history of that road has been bad, and I've lived there 40 years. All the way back from the design from 1983 and everything. And of course, it has different land of clay, dirt, and so on, which makes it more of a challenge in testing it, and I get it. And the other 2 supervisors also agreed with me on this situation. Even if it was a trial part, not doing the whole mileage all the way across, because basically it is so bad, and it's not this last year, the year before, the year before. I will not drive my fish house, I will not drive my trailer, or anything that, it's just bumpy. And it also can be very unsafe and stuff in the wintertime, because even with the snow and everything like that, it's bumpy, nothing fills in. What I'm proposing is that kind of stuff is, even if it's a trial thing, to find out if it lasts 15 or 20 years or 5 years longer than the stuff that you guys don't pack down. It needs some kind of hauling of class 5 in some places. Over by the Tauges area, there's a dip that comes. You guys have dug it out before, filled it in a numerous amount of times. And I understand everything, and the taxes have changed. If you have any extra money in the situation, to at least give a trial part, 2 or 3 miles or anything like that. I do work for Anderson Brothers. I'm not speaking on the business of Anderson Brothers at all, but I am speaking on the public of the people I represent. And the neighboring townships and stuff too have also talked about the situation. So I'm just to try to propose something to come up. Any questions with me or the other supervisors of St. Matthias Township? We would love to discuss anything possible, but just some kind of improvement, because we know there's clay there in some spots, and there's a possibility of going into rocks and so on and everything. But just, it needs more, because we've been waiting for years for this opportunity for repair, which we appreciate. But the longer it lasts, the less money we have to spend in the future.
Okay, I appreciate it, and we'll, that information will be given, to the county engineer, and I think we'll take that seriously and consider that. So, thank you very much.
Please and thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak during open forum? All right, with that, I'll ask Attorney Ryan to update us on his research project. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board, everyone all in the gallery. So you asked me some time back to provide a legal opinion on the request that was brought before you for a forensic audit of the 2020 election. Before I provide that, I just wanted to provide somewhat of a background on the process and the seriousness with which I took this request and assignment. So I've been the county attorney for 27 years, being elected in 1994. During this time, I have been involved in or privy to the Crow Wing County electoral process from a legal consultant perspective for all elections starting in 1996. That's 18 elections. In all of those elections, I have not observed or been made aware of anything that causes me to question the integrity of the Crow Wing County electoral system. I make no comment on any other electoral systems. My focus is strictly on the Crow Wing County electoral system. And this is not the first time an issue has been brought up or there have been questions. I say this because our right to vote, to elect our leaders, including myself as an elected official and you as the county board members, is a very, if not extremely, extremely important right that we're guaranteed. And the integrity of our electoral system and our elections is paramount to our system of government in this country. During my research of state statutes, the Minnesota rules, case law, I have kept this in perspective as I have conducted the research and I've done my analysis and thought through what I believed the law shows in this particular instance and the opinion I'm about to provide to you. As I understand it, the request came to this board to do a forensic audit of the 2020 election here in Crow Wing County. That included the unsealing of the ballots, all of the ballots, and to recount each of those ballots by precinct, by race, by hand. And then, and I'm not saying that they requested a recount. Mr. Davis clarified it's not a recount, it's an audit. But part of that audit was to recount those ballots, to make that determination. There was also a part of that request was an inspection, as I understand it, of the algorithm used in the optical scanning equipment by a qualified third party. Also an inspection of the optical scanning machines to ensure that they function properly. That breaks down into some subsets, but I kind of lumped it all together. Again, by a qualified third party. And then there were some miscellaneous other questions, and I'm just thinking of the initial requests now. There's been several presentations to the board. I received an email just yesterday from Ms. Sylvester with some other issues which I was not able to prepare for today. And so those aren't included necessarily in this. Some of those questions concerned why it took so long for a certain two election officials from a precinct to get to voting central, why it took so long to accept one of the ballots in the optical scanning equipment, which was later accepted. and several other questions that I don't recall as I was putting this outline together, but of the similar nature. Questions about why something happened. To my understanding, there's no allegation that anybody did anything wrong. There's no allegation, that was what was stated, as, again, from my recollection, by Mr. Davis when he initially requested this, and he can speak for himself when I'm done. There's also, as I understand the presentations, no allegation that the results of the elections are going to change because of this forensic audit. They weren't questioning the outcomes of the races. The question is that they wanted to ensure that the Crow Wing County electoral process is fair, it's ethical, it's not corrupt, that's my word, not theirs, and that the results of the election are accurate. They don't, and they have requested that we not use the optical scanning equipment to count votes. They'd like to scrap that system and go back to a hand count system by precinct for every race as is provided in part of the Minnesota law. So the question, as I understand it, that you asked me to answer, does the Crow Wing County Board have the legal authority to conduct a forensic audit of the 2020 election system as requested? Put another way, what is your legal authority, if any, to do what you've been requested to do, which is to do a forensic audit of this particular election? So throughout my research, and as I said, I've read what I believe to be all the pertinent statutes in the state of Minnesota. I've cross-referenced those with all the various rules. Several of the statutes dealing with elections direct the Secretary of State to create rules on how the election should be run. And then they need to interplay. And I've read several Minnesota Supreme Court cases on elections as well, specifically dealing with counting of ballots in a contested electoral process. I have not found any law that specifically authorizes, nor have I found any law that specifically prohibits you from doing what you've been requested to do. And when I say specifically, there's nothing that says the county board can conduct a forensic audit. There's nothing that says the county board cannot conduct a forensic audit in those specific words. It doesn't say, in fact, the term county board rarely appears in the election laws for the state of Minnesota. You do appear when it comes to the membership of a canvassing board for the county elections. It comes up when you get into your responsibilities to do redistricting plans once every 10 years. And it comes up, at least peripherally, when it comes to providing resources to conduct the elections in Crow Wing County. That falls on you, and you're in charge of the purse strings for the county. The term auditor or head election judge does appear quite frequently when it pertains to county personnel involved in elections. And as you know, we don't have an auditor position anymore. We now have a chief elections official because we have done some blending over the years in regards to what would have been an elected auditor position. As a result of that, I'm compelled to turn to statutory interpretation to try to answer your question. It would be easy for me to say the law doesn't allow you to do it, therefore you can't do it. But I felt I needed to go a little deeper into statutory interpretation. And when I did so, I used the canons of judicial construction for statutory interpretation. And so I'm going to outline briefly what those are so you can understand what I did. First thing that a court needs to do is to determine if the language of a statute is ambiguous. Is it confusing what it means? If it is, then the court needs to make a determination of what the legislative intent was for the statute or series of statutes involved. Though they are extremely repetitive, I do not find that the election laws, the statutes for the state of Minnesota are ambiguous. So that's not a question here. Since the language is not ambiguous, we look at the words and phrases that are used, and they are construed according to the rules of grammar and common usage. Except for technical words and phrases that have acquired a special or specific meaning or be construed in that manner. and words and phrases that are defined in the statute, and there are a lot of statutes that define certain terms in our election laws, then you use the definition provided by the legislature in the statute. Another rule of interpretation is that the legislature did not intend an absurd result, and that all parts of a statute or a series of statutes on a given point are intended to be given meaning. That means all aspects of every statute are intended to be given meaning, to apply to a situation, and to work together, so that they're not competing with one another. Using those, I looked at those canons of constructions. I looked at post-election review of ballots, recounts as provided in 204C, election contests as provided in Minnesota Statute 209. Those don't apply here because the timeframes for all of those contests expired in 2020, and this request came before you in 2021. So I'm not providing any analysis or any opinion on those. That's a statutory process and will need to be followed with strict compliance because it's a statutory right, not a legal right or a common law right or a constitutional right as determined by the Minnesota Supreme Court previously. So looking at post-canvassing or the post
I want to just pause you for a second, Don. They're asking if you can speak up just a little bit more so they can hear.
I apologize. I will try to get closer to the mic. I'm not used to having my back to people when I do a presentation. Using those canons of statutory interpretation, I shifted my focus to post-canvassing of an election or post-issuance of election certificates. So once the time to challenge an election or to seek a recount expires, ballots are to be retained in sealed envelopes in containers and are to be put in secured storage for 22 months under Minnesota law, and that mirrors federal law. When I was looking at the law as it pertains to that 22-month time frame, I found only 2 exceptions in regards to that they could be opened up again. So in this instance, Ms. Erickson, Debbie Erickson, is to make sure that those are maintained in a secured storage for 22 months, and she doesn't have the authority to go back in and do anything with them, in my opinion. Under Minnesota Statute 204B.40, it states, after the time for filing a notice of contest for an election has passed, the Secretary of State may, for the purposes of monitoring and evaluating election procedures, 1, open the sealed ballot envelopes and inspect the ballots for that election maintained by the county auditors, municipal clerks, or school district clerks, 2, inspect the polling place rosters and complete voter registration applications. 3, examine other forms required in the Minnesota election laws for use in the polling places. That statute goes on, but that clearly vests with the Secretary of State the authority to unseal the ballots and look at them to ensure integrity in our electoral process. There is also a procedure provided in 204C.39 where a court can order the ballots opened under subdivision 1 once an application filed by a candidate has been received by the court without unreasonable delay and the proceedings specifically allege what the obvious error is. And then a judicial process would commence where the court could take evidence. The court has to see specific evidence that would meet the necessary judicial burden in order to order that the ballots be opened up and inspected for purposes of that legal process to correct obvious errors in the ballots. I'm not really sure that applies to the post-canvass scenario because it doesn't say if it's pre-canvassed or post-canvass. I include it for completeness because theoretically that would be a process that could be followed possibly shortly after the canvassing and issue of elections are done. However, that process isn't, at least in the primary cases, isn't supposed to delay the publication of the results. However, even if this judicial process would apply, Minnesota Supreme Court has held that bland assertions that ballots may not have been counted correctly or in general about an electoral process without specifics of what was done wrong is insufficient to maintain an election contest. The first case that I would cite to you today is Christian v. Allen, which is a 1963 case, 264 Minnesota 395. The second case I would cite to you today is Bergstrom v. McEwen, 960 Northwest 2nd 556, which is a 2001 case. In regards to those are both election contest cases. The Christensen Allen case dealt with being able to count the ballots in the courts for purposes of a contest. The court said you haven't specifically alleged what was wrong, just that the county may not have been right, and said that doesn't meet statutory requirements. That predates the recount statute in Minnesota. In the Bergstrom v. McEwen, there was actually a recount and then still an election contest, and the court applied the same standards as it did in the Christensen v. Allen and said that's been the standard in the state for the last 150 years. And that was as of, I think it was June of 2021. So what does that mean for today? Because that's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo. One of the other rules of statutory interpretation is, and you'll have to forgive me because I've never been very good at Latin, expressio unis est excluso altuus, which means when something is mentioned in a statute or a series of statutes, it leads to the presumption that things not listed are excluded. You see that a lot in particularly the appellate court rules, and I've been in front of the Court of Appeals, the Minnesota Supreme Court, District Court, multiple times arguing statutory construction and interpretation, and that is always something that is considered. So my humble, simple country lawyer opinion is that since the legislature provided for the Secretary of State, and only the Secretary of State, the ability to review the ballots post-contest of election timeframes, that its intent is that this is an exclusive authority vested in the Secretary of State and no other entity, not a county board, not a local election official, not an auditor, has the same authority. Consequently, I do not believe that you have the authority to grant the request before you to do a forensic audit of the 2020 electoral process by directing someone to unseal the ballots, recount them, and do the comparison that you want that's requested of you. I do think the Minnesota Secretary of State, should the Secretary of State choose to exercise that authority, has the ability to come to Crow Wing County and has the ability to open those ballots and do what is being requested in regards to a forensic audit of the integrity of the counting of the ballots with our optical scanners. I believe that this opinion is supported by the Minnesota Supreme Court cases that I have previously cited. I also believe it's supported by an old Minnesota Attorney General opinion, which is all I could find on this specific issue, where the Attorney General opined that a city council was not authorized to examine ballots or ballot boxes. Now, a city council is not a county board. I know the difference. But it's persuasive in that city councils aren't mentioned in the statutes either. Municipal clerks are. And so I just give you that as a little additional background to support the opinion I've given you on the ballots. In regards to the optical scanning machines, I didn't spend a lot of time on that. In regards to, I didn't find a lot of case law on it. I've read the statutes and the rules on it. I don't believe you can let independent third parties who aren't certified by the state come in and do the analysis or get into the guts of the machines or the software. We would either then have to buy new equipment or we'd have to go out and have those recertified. I felt the focus of the request was more on the getting rid of the machines, period. And realistically, if you do ultimately decide, or someone does ultimately decide to do a forensic audit on the ballots, and you count the ballots by hand, and you compare that to the analysis by the optical scanning equipment, and they come out the same, to me, that would say that the machines function properly. And I would defer that to someone who's more astute in computers and voting equipment than I am. That's not my thing. I do note that the 2022 electoral process for determining the accuracy of our optical scanning equipment will begin soon. We have a 2022 election, and I would encourage everyone to get involved in that process. I know historically a lot of people don't show up for that. So there is a process where our head elections official is going to have to do the accuracy testing for the equipment. That is done by having some predetermined, I believe the term in the statute is cards or decks, predetermine what the results are supposed to be, including failed ballots, improperly marked ballots, all of those types of things. Debbie can explain that much better than me. And if it gets through that testing phase, then we go to the public accuracy testing phase to ensure that our equipment is working. And again, I encourage everyone to get involved in that process if they have any questions about the accuracy of them. I don't really have anything further to report on that. I'd be happy to, on any of this in a moment or two here, take questions from you, the board, or if the board chooses from the public in attendance here today. And I really didn't prepare any remarks on the rest of the questions because I felt those are the major two. In anticipation of a question, can the county board, would you have the authority to proceed deeper on the voting machine side and consider how we want to conduct elections in the futures? You'd have the authority to do that, but again, that wasn't a question posed to me. I didn't spend time in analyzing and to come in and give you a researched opinion on that. In conclusion, I realize that my opinion is not the result many wanted to hear today. But my job as the elected Crow Wing County attorney is to give you my legal opinion as requested on what I believe the law is, and that is what I have done. I am willing to meet with Ben Davis, and I only pick on Ben because he's the person I've primarily had any conversations with. I know there are more people involved today that are very interested in this as well. So it could be with Ben Davis or Mr. Davis and some other people, whatever, to work with them to try to figure out what the next step may or may not be, or to see if there's a way that we can show to them that our electoral process is fair and accurate here in Crow Wing County. And as I said, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any questions you or any of the board may have, and if you so choose, anybody who is in attendance here today.
All right, well, thank you very much for all the work done. I know that took a lot of research. I think that sometimes the perception is that all you got to do is go read one statute and it gives you the answer. There's a lot more that you have to put into it to get the correct direction that you're giving to the board at this time. My question to you right now is, do you want to stay where you're at because the questions will be at your back, or would you rather come back up here and...
I can do either, Mr. Chairman, but if you choose to allow a member who's in attendance to ask me a question, I'd rather be looking at them than have my back to them, if that's all right. So I will go back and take my chair.
Okay.
Unless any of you have questions you want to ask before you open it up, if you decide to do so.
I don't have any questions. Either of you?
No, I'm looking at the statute that was cited, and it's pretty clear.
Commissioner Coring or Commissioner Brecken, questions?
No questions.
No questions on my part.
All
I
right.
will take my seat at the bench then, yeah.
All right. So at this time, I open it up to any of you who would like to come and speak regarding the election process in Crow Wing County.
I just have a quick question. What statute makes it clear?
Ben, if you'll come up to the microphone, this is recorded, so appreciate it. And then your name and where you live again.
Ben Davis, Crow Wing County, but you said you were going to take questions, but I just have, what statute was cited that was clear? That's all I wanted to know quickly.
Our county attorney cited Minnesota State Statute 204B.40, and right in there it says, after the time for filing a notice of contest for an election has passed, the Secretary of State may, for the purposes of monitoring and evaluating election procedures, and then it goes on, open the ballots, other things.
Is there anyone else that has a statement or a question?
I have a statement, I believe, so.
Yes, sir. Name and where you live.
My name is, good morning, everyone. My My name is Bob Gross. I've actually lived in Crow Wing County for a long time, but now I live in Cass County. So more than half of my life I spent in Crow Wing County. But I would like to begin by saying that with the canvassing is a way to double-check votes from the individual voter all the way through to the Secretary of State's office. It's a slow process of gathering concrete evidence. The individual voter is interviewed and the data is double-checked with the list of the Secretary of State's office. It's not hard to do, it just takes time. And each individual is interviewed is a piece of evidence. With hundreds of people are interviewed, the resulting data set is real and solid evidence. Okay? Canvassing in Crow Wing County showed that 9% of the votes in Crow Wing County do not match what the Secretary of State says happened in our county. That is, many people who voted in the 2020 election are shown as having not voted, and many people that chose not to vote in the 2020 election are shown as having voted. That's 9% of them, by the way. With hundreds of registered voters interviewed in Crow Wing County, it is reasonable to use statistics to show the big picture. With 45,200 voters registered in Crow Wing County, 9% of this is 4,068 people in Crow Wing County. So 4,068 people were not correctly represented in the 2020 election according to the canvassing results that we've already collected. Only a full audit, an audit from the individual voter all the way through the Secretary of State's registered voter list, can find out why the data is wrong. The people of Crow Wing County have a right to know why 4,068 were not accounted for correctly. We have a right to know that. Why were the votes either lost or added? Doesn't an audit make sense? And on the first day we came in and asked for an audit of the Crow Wing County election, canvassing had not yet occurred. We just suspected that an issue was wrong, and that's why we're here. We brought up a number of items as to why we suspected it was wrong. But now, with solid evidence gathered, what can we do to correct the 4,068 votes? And the way you find it out is to talk to the different people, right? Find out if they voted and is it correctly logged, but it's not. What caused the votes to go missing? What caused the votes to be added? Was it changed locally? Did the machines change it? Was it changed in the internet? Was it changed at the Secretary of State's office? All that we know is 4,068 votes were changed. The question is how? And we don't know if it's fraud. We don't know what it is. We do know that it's 4,068 votes. That's real evidence. If you mention the Secretary of State, you know, an old saying comes to me, the fox guards the hen house. And I grew up in Minnesota on a farm. You don't want that happening. And one more thing, the census totals the number of people by age. And for ages above 65, we have more registered voters in Crow Wing County than the census says we have people. And that's all I have to share for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one quick second. The only allegations that we've had thus far, Ms. Sylvester presented a worksheet of names, which was far less than the number that you're quoting there, because you're extrapolating and moving it based on a percentage. What we have is, I think Don would agree with me here, that when you go to court, you have to have the actual evidence. And so the ones that were submitted will be looked at and checked, cross-referenced, and if they are in violation, they will be presented to the county attorney for prosecution. So that's what we're dealing with there. So, well, the other gentleman well, go ahead, if it doesn't take very long.
It won't take very long. So when you canvass 200 people, you kind of know what's going to happen in the next 100, and that's what we found. So if you want to continue canvassing people, you'll continue finding the same data. And that's how statistics work. It's rolling dice, and it works that way. So if you want to continue let's say instead of going the 300, go to 3,000, see if the percentages are the same. That's the way you find out, and that's what an audit does.
And I understand that, and I will only make the distinction that those are assumptions, and the courts deal with facts. So we'll stop right there. Yes, sir.
My name is Sergeant Rick Felt, and I live in Crow Wing County. According to your statistics on December 15th, you certified an election that had 125 absentee ballots that had no name or person attached to them. And after I looked up the statute, that is against the law. So basically, you broke the law when you allowed those 125 ballots to be scanned into evidence. That is not the way the law is interpreted. It says that if those ballots do not have an official name or address attached to them that is registered in the Crow Wing County, they are supposed to be set aside and not scanned. But we had over 1,400 of those ballots that were initially scanned in, and then after further research, they actually basically narrowed it down to 125. So basically, to me, that says that basically we broke the law in this county by allowing those 125 ballots to be entered and scanned into evidence. It basically broke the Minnesota law. So my question is, what are we going to do about it from here on in? How do we protect those 125 ballots from happening again? And Rick, you're probably saying, Rick, well, 125 isn't enough to change an election. But in Dakota County alone, there's 154,000 that do not have a face. That's more than enough in one county to change the entire outcome in the state of Minnesota, just in one county. Now, are all counties in Minnesota held accountable under the same law, to the same standard? So if we hold Crow Wing County to a higher standard than Dakota County, is that fair to everybody? And if you don't think that this is a severe problem, we certified an election in the state of Minnesota 25 days after with 38.6% of the ballots cast that did not have a face to them. If that doesn't ring an alarm, I don't know what does. And then now, you're saying that the state of Minnesota is going to dictate to this county how we go ahead and run our county? That's a dictatorship as far as I'm concerned. We have the authority to declare this county a constitutional county, and Sheriff Goddard would have the authority to say, no, hold on, state of Minnesota, we're going to run our county according to the Constitution of the United States. And that is how we, the people, work. Otherwise, why are all of you sitting here? We, the people, and the Lord Jesus Christ has elected all of you into those positions of authority. And we have every single right to run this county according to the moral code that we see fit. And we're not going to be dictated by the state of Minnesota how we run this county. But the fact of the matter is that we allowed 125 ballots to go into the registry that did not have a face. We're finding time and time again that FedEx and UPS, which has a big branch here right in the state of Minnesota, right here in Brainerd, we found a number of addresses that went right to those post office boxes, so they could basically say that I have a legal post office box here in Brainerd, but I don't actually live here in the county. Is that a legal vote? It shouldn't be. If they don't live here in the county, but if they have a post office box, there's a lot of questions that are being raised here that are legitimate concerns. And with 38% of the state of Minnesota certifying an election that did not have a face to, if that doesn't bring any kind of concern, we're in big trouble. And the other question that I have is that, does that log in those Dominion machines that has our public information on them, do we have the right to access that log in those Dominion machines? We should. It's our data from our county. But if we go in and ask Dominion for the permission to do that, they're going to tell us we can't do that. Why? That log will tell us if that thing went onto the internet and switched any votes. That's the real question. And can we do an audit and do the paper ballots and compare it to what the electronic said? That would be fine. I wouldn't have a problem with that. But are we going to be told we can't even do that on the county level too? That's all I have.
Thank you. Let's take the young lady first. Name and where you live, please.
My name is Julie Dillon, and I lived in Crow Wing for like over 10 years. I live in Cass County now, but I have my office here in Crow Wing County, and I'm just a very concerned citizen. I spent 8 years in the United States Air Force myself. I want to thank the county attorney for all the work he did. That I can tell that was an extensive research, and that I appreciate that. One of my questions came out of what you said, and it sounded like you said the council here does not have the authority to open the ballots, but the Secretary of State does. Is that what you said?
That's correct.
Okay, so based on that, I guess my question would be, then I would request that this city council request from the Secretary of State to do exactly that. We as this county are requesting that from the Secretary of State if that is the legal procedure to do so. That was one of the things I wanted to ask that you do. And then the other thing was, I strongly believe our system is broken, and we're trying to go back and prove that, if you will. But I also think that going forward, we need to fix our upcoming elections, which is what we're trying to do by fixing the previous election. I want to request that any future elections that we abolish the Dominion machine, for sure. I mean, I think there's significant evidence that supports that. And that is one thing that we can do immediately. I think that we should make that decision and get rid of those machines and start counting those ballots by hand at any time going forward. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
My name's Tony Bauer, a resident in Crow Wing County. I would just like to pose a question to all of the county commissioners. And my question is, what is in your hearts to do in response to all these requests that you've had for this audit and for assurances that we have a fair system? Or are you merely looking for the county attorney to give you a way out? I would like to know where you stand on it, because I don't think anybody in this room, anybody in this county, anybody in this state is willing to accept the fact that the Secretary of State can control our elections. Thank you.
Thank you. Name and where you live?
Doug Kern, Crow Wing Township. With all the anomalies and all the things that we've discussed, that we've brought forward, and even signed affidavits from people that would say, this is what happened to me. We're not expecting the Secretary of State to do anything. We're expecting our county to do their job. And we're looking to you guys for leadership, is what we're looking for. And with the anomalies that have been brought forward, it would be different if we didn't have anything to bring forward. We're not looking to the Secretary of State, we're looking to you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak or ask a question? Yes, sir.
Lyle Creek, Hillman, Crow Wing County. I would like to speak on behalf of the disenchanted voters in Crow Wing County. I've spoken to numerous people who will never vote again until these machines are out of our hair. We can count paper ballots fine. We don't need machines. A lot of us can still count, add, and subtract. Let's get rid of these Dominion machines before the next election, where I know numerous people who will no longer vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Sonia Slack, Crow Wing County. I just wanted to make a statement that we agree the county board is in charge of conducting the elections, but it would seem reasonable to assume ensuring the validity of that would also be a part of that job. The county attorney admits this is not addressed. So I don't think we should assume it's not your responsibility because it's not spelled out. If it wasn't your responsibility, I think that would be spelled out. Do you conduct the election with rules? Of course you do. What's the checks and balance for that? You know, you just to make sure the information is given to you and you pass it off. I don't think your responsibility ends there. Does anybody double check the numbers that are sent to the Secretary of State? Is that the number that's in the final total? Also, the election equipment certification, we've been asking to see that. To my knowledge, that has never been presented, and the county attorney mentioned that he didn't think a third party that's not certified by the state can be allowed to look at the ballots, but we don't even see the certification for the equipment in the first place. So if you have that, I wish you would post that on your site or email to Ben. He can get it to the rest of us.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone online that would like to speak? Hearing none.
That's Rick Weibel.
Oh, somebody just,
1 second. We have a speaker at the microphone.
Yes, Rick Weibel.
Go ahead. You can go ahead.
Go ahead. Speaker on the, are you on the phone? Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Rick Weibel. I'm a computer expert. I'm the gentleman who did the scan on the 87 counties and the Secretary of State's office, where we are seeing that there are credit card security issues on 52% of the counties, yours included, with basic security. And one of the things I do want to bring up that I think is important for you to understand is that I've been reviewing the data behind the scenes regarding the Minnesota elections, and I need you guys to understand that your team certified an election when only 10% at best of the absentee ballots were entered into the voter histories, and 12% of the overall ballots were entered in. So you certified an election way below F-grade work. And I think it is incumbent upon you to do corrective action to make sure that you actually go back and look at this. You didn't even ask the basic questions such as, for your employee, number one, are all the ballots connected to a voter? At that point in time, according to the Secretary of State's office, on November 29th, you only had 12% of the work done. Now that's 5 days after certification. So you're telling me that when they had 25 days before the 29th to get all that data in, that they got it in, miraculously, the other 88% in 16 days. I want you to really think about that. So you have an employee that you can't even analyze to go and even look at the court order that's out there where they were supposed to segregate the absentee ballots that were received after the election, after 3 p.m. and after 8 p.m. on November 3rd. You don't even know the answer to that question as to, for example, the 885 extra ballots that were received after November 3rd. They, according to the Secretary of State's office, were counted in the election. The question that you still need to ask is, are you abiding by the court order? Is your employee doing that? So this is a publicly available data sets that you've heard from previous speakers and myself, and this is just crying out for a second review of what actually happened. And if you're going to keep this person as an employee and you're not going to be able to go in and review their work, I'm going to recommend that they need to stop being an employee and back to an elected official so that the public can make the final determination as to whether or not they should be employed by the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
That guy was pretty good. Mark Olson, 12336 Thompson Road. Mr. Ryan, I think you stated that when you were going through the elections, that Crow Wing County had no problems with the elections in the last 20, 30 years, right?
That's not what I said.
No, that's not what you said?
No.
What did you say?
I said that I am aware of, nor have been made privy to anything in the last, those 18 elections that made me question the integrity of the elections or question the accuracy of elections. Keeping in mind that this is a system built by human beings, run by human beings, mistakes will happen, and there will be issues. I did not say there was never an issue or a mistake.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying. Because we did have an issue with the sheriff's election. We had an issue with the school board election a couple years ago. Nothing was done about it. So what we're asking you guys to do is do something about it. The Secretary of State is not the king. There's no law, and Mrs. Francine quoted a statute. That doesn't say you guys can't do anything. That's Mr. Ryan's opinion. And it appears that's you guys' opinion, that you can't do anything. No, you were elected by we the people. You can do something if you choose to. And that's what we're asking you to do. He's not the king of Minnesota, the Secretary of State. There's nothing in the law that says you can or can't. So that means you can, if you choose to do it. You're elected by the county. This is a county thing, not a state thing. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Board. Thank you, Rick, for that great presentation of facts. Like someone said, Secretary of State does not rule the roost here. I can answer, I believe it was Sonia's question. I know your county does not have the certificates for your machines. You don't have them. Only you can get them from the Secretary of State's office. Why is that? What if you were sold machines that literally were fraudulent from the get-go? Do you know that? Has anybody looked into that? Has the Brainerd Dispatch even looked at that? No, they have not. In fact, their great article yesterday liked to use the words, what was it? Unproven and or false accusations of the 2020 election. Says who? They haven't investigated it. You guys haven't looked into it. You've all been emailed Rick's data, among many of other things. Have you even looked at it? The last time I was before you guys, I said none of the machines in this country were properly certified. Has anybody looked into that? I don't think so. But Mr. Attorney over there, you do have the authority to investigate that. Your machines were not legally certified. The labs that did the certification had expired accreditations. They were not renewed until January 2021. That is fact. Go look it up on the EAC website. I also have the evidence, and I would love to sit down with the attorney and present this evidence to him. But I will not be defamed, and this group, who's been working for months, will not be defamed by a paper that hasn't even done their own investigation. Now, if nothing happens beyond this, you've all been served plenty of evidence. Just remember, if you guys do not proceed forward with this, there are other legal means, and we will pursue them. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. 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 T
you. Robin, do you want to speak?
She'll have to unmute herself.
Robin, if you unmute yourself?
She says she is unmuted.
I know she had an issue early on when we were checking
What's her number? Is it 80?
that one.
This
Yep.
one? She is muted. She needs to unmute herself on her end.
Robin, they're saying that you need to unmute yourself on your end. We don't have the ability on this end.
See right here where she's muted.
This is Robin.
There you go.
Hello? Go ahead, Robin.
This is Robin. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, my goodness, I apologize. My error. Good morning, Commissioners. This is Robin Sylvester. I do live in Crow Wing County. Thank you for taking a few minutes of your time to listen to just an update. My apologies. As the attorney had mentioned, I did send you all the evidence yesterday, which I had shared a bit of the evidence to Ms. Erickson a couple weeks ago after the last board meeting, asking her to share the information with you all. I had copies. I'm not sure if that actually got to you all. So thus the subsequent email yesterday. In that email, I had provided voter ID numbers for folks that had both. We have affidavits for number one of votes that were lost and affidavits for the phantom votes per your noting of the quantity of the count, Commissioner Barrows. Also, Rick Weibel, who just spoke on the PCI compliance, had provided us with 9 voters that had passed away prior to November 3rd, but their votes were counted in the Crow Wing County records. That is not okay. So how do we move forward next? Part of my request on my email also included a scaled down approach for a quote unquote forensic audit. If at the minimum we could get access to the envelopes and to the rosters for the absentee and the mail-in envelopes, because most of our anomalies for the lost vote or phantom votes were through the mail. Now, what we would like to do is videotape our review of those envelopes and the rosters. And when we find one that was an affidavit of a lost vote, phantom votes, let's work together with the sheriff and the county attorney and our team to go back to that resident that signed that affidavit and have them confirm that that is not my signature. That was not my envelope. Because if we do not follow through, it's dereliction of duty, folks. We have a responsibility to make sure this is a safe and fair election. And we've already identified simply 16 of 150 homes, you guys, we visited. That's not a lot. But extrapolating it, it's a lot. It's around 12% of just lost or phantom. So how do we move forward with our additional requests that I sent yesterday of a scaled approach? I know that the Dominion machines are of critical interest to our team as well. So if we take one step at a time, one parcel at a time, let's not shut the door on this. I would plead to you to not shut the door. Thank you. That's all I have.
So, Ms. Sylvester, just a quick note, and I know that Ms. Erickson is working on the list that you provided to her for the ones that you said passed away and were counted in the election, and I have spoken with her, and I do have some information on that, but I will defer to her when she gets back from vacation to update you on those situations. So, and I want to remind the audience here that this board is only looking at Crow Wing County. We're not looking at the state. We are only looking at Crow Wing County, just so everybody understands that what happens in Dakota County is their business. We have no business telling them what to do or how to do their handle their responsibilities. So you would like to speak, sir?
Jeff Berg, Crow Wing County. Years ago, when I was in school, I remember reading history books. And one of the stories that was told in our history book was about people in the early days of the United States of America, in the 13 colonies, and the extent and the effort that were put forward by certain individuals to extend their vote, to make their vote, and see that their vote was counted. I respect that person. Now, times have changed, we know that, but the effort and the purity of vote was valuable then, and I think it still should be today. I feel that the mail-in votes, the closing of districts, voting precincts here in this county puts us to shame against that example. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm always cautious on that one because when you say no mail-in ballots, that excludes our U.S. forces that are abroad, and that's how they vote. So I'm always cautious about that proposal. Still a mail ballot. Sorry, folks. Any other statements, questions, concerns? All right.
Will we get a definitive answer on this stuff?
I think that will be coming here.
Well, I'd like to thank Don for helping us figure out what the law allows the county board to do. I think restoring people's faith in elections is an important thing. I think restoring people's faith in our elections is an important thing, and I think we need to support that. I don't want us to just walk away from this concern. But our county attorney has told us that we can't do anything about this.
No.
And
Please.
Minnesota State Statute MS 204B.40 states that we have to keep this is right off the state statute. It says we have to keep these for 22 months, but we can't open them. But the Secretary of State can. I think Ms. Dillon's, I think she had a good thought. And I would like all the citizens to have faith in the integrity of our elections. And I would like to offer a motion to direct staff to bring a resolution for the next meeting asking the Secretary of State to very strongly consider authorizing a request for forensic audit to ensure the integrity of Crow Wing County's elections for 2020 and for all future elections.
So we have a motion on the floor offering a motion to request the Secretary of State to conduct a forensic audit in Crow Wing County.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Hoag. Therese, would you call the roll call, please?
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye on that. That motion passes. Staff is directed to bring us a resolution at the next meeting requesting the Secretary of State to look into considering, or whatever their process is, to conduct a forensic audit in Crow Wing County.
Will do, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to the next order of business, which is to review before you leave, I just personally want to say thank you to all of you for the civility that you've shown at, I think it's 5 meetings now that you've attended. I appreciated the things that you've said, the concerns that you've brought to us. You've done it in a very orderly manner and a respectful manner, and I want to applaud you folks in how you've conducted yourself with your concerns to us as your board. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair, I'll be right back.
I think we'll take about a 10-minute recess.
Paul and Bill, we're going to start, just so you know.
For Gary, but.
Okay.
Are you ready, Treese?
Waiting for the stream to boot back up. Okay.
All right, we're back in session. We're on number 3. I would look for a motion to review and approve the minutes from December 14th, 2021.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Franzine. Second. Second by Commissioner Hoag. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye, that motion passes. Number 4, review and approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Franzine to approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hoag. Therese, if you'd call that roll call, please.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. That motion passes. Number 5, consent agenda. Any questions?
Mr.
Commissioner
Chair,
Hoag.
if I could, either Gary or Ryan, just maybe an explanation on 5.11, the change order for the
Landfill?
landfill.
Yep.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. That was for an extra, during the recycling grading that we did around the recycling area and the loading dock construction. They used an additional 2,700 cubic yards of material, so it's extra $10,800 onto what we previously estimated.
Okay.
So, and that's all been complete.
Okay, that's good, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hoag. Looking for a second by Commissioner Coring,
That was Brecken.
or I'm sorry, Commissioner Brecken. Therese, if you'd call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Franzine?
Nay.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair says aye. Motion passes.
What, I just, you know what? What did we just vote on?
Consent agenda.
And you know what? I want to change my vote to no.
So I have Commissioner Franzine and Commissioner Coring both voting no.
Correct.
Okay.
Number 6, I'd look for a motion to open a public hearing regarding the 2022 fee schedule.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Franzine.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hoag. I will open the public hearing at 10:26. Is there anyone that would like to speak?
Have to do roll call.
I'm sorry, do roll call, please.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye, that motion passes. Is there anyone who would like to speak to the fee schedule 2022? Anyone? Seeing and hearing none, I would look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hoag to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Franzine. Therese, if you'd call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. That motion passes. 6.2, Fee schedule and policies. I'm not sure who's handling that one. Nick, would you walk us through that?
I can take that one. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Today we are approving the 2022 schedule for fees. As you know, there are two different ways that we can collect our revenues for the different services we provide. One of those is through taxation, the other is through the fees. Fees are intended for services that are more specific to an individual, whereas the tax is for more broad across the board of services. We did review in Budget Committee multiple changes to the 2022 schedule. Our 2021 fee schedule is available online on our website. Once this is approved, this fee schedule will be posted on our website as well. All I will go through today is the changes that are being proposed as we discussed at Budget Committee. Under financial services, we are asking to increase the commercial pesticide applicator proctoring fee from $119 to $139. This is a $20 increase to the county portion. We did increase this last year as we saw that it was costing us more money to proctor these exams. And again, we are seeing with the new changes to this exam that this is again causing our staff to spend more time, resulting in more cost on our end. This is to cover those costs. Under land services, we have a number of changes. We have some additions, some removals, and some changes to the fee schedule itself. Under customer services, they are asking to add the marriage certificate of no record found for $9. This is in response to a number of requests for marriage certificate research for those that are applying for marriage outside of the country. This is to cover our cost of the expense. There is a $5 fee that we pay for this service, and then the $4 is to cover our staff time. Under assessing services, there is a proposal to remove the proposed TIF project for $300, and then removing wording under the tax research to make it more readily understandable to those that are seeing the fee schedule. Under environmental services, firewood permits, timber tax forfeited. We are proposing to remove timber and tax forfeited from the title and leaving it just at firewood permits. We're also asking to remove copy of forest management plan tax forfeited lands for $25 from this area. And then removing forfeited parcel research, one parcel for $250, and additional parcel, same forfeiture for $200. Under land use permits, adding conversion of guest cottage for $250. There have been a number of requests to convert existing structures to guest cottages. This is to put a permit into place that actually reflects the request. Staff has been placing this under new construction rather than a specific fee for that purpose. Under miscellaneous permit fees, we're adding a new section titled Miscellaneous Permit Fees, hence the new section here. Adding additional fee for all permit applications on riparian parcels for $100, and adding scheduled site visit requests without permit applications for $100. Staff has been doing site visits and other activities to support requests related to parcels, and there's no fee for that. Since this does cost time for staff to do this, we're asking to have a $100 fee for that. Under license and special fees, removing the manufactured home movers license for $100. This is removed from the land services side as it's already accounted for on the highway side. So this is just clarifying that there is only one fee that is applicable in this case, and that's out in the highway department. For Planning Commission Board of Adjustments, adding wording from conditional use permit to residential commercial use permit to standardize across the two. Added amendment to residential conditional use permit for $500. Adding commercial conditional use permit for $750, and an amendment to the same for $750. Under land use applications, the request is to change the wording of independent plat check fee to outside jurisdiction plat or plate review fee. Under solid waste, we're requesting to increase the solid waste management service charge. The fee has been $15 for a number of years. Asking to increase this to $25 per use per parcel, up to a maximum of $75 based on number of parcels that the individual has.
Nick, can I interrupt?
Yep.
Do you guys have any questions on the fees?
No. We don't
Perfect.
need to go through them one by one.
I don't need to go through them all. If
I
you don't
think
want me
it'll
to.
save you a lot of time.
Okay.
Any questions on the fees?
Any questions, Paul or Bill? Commissioners?
No questions from me.
No questions from me either. There is one change in here on the handout that you were provided under community services. We do have domestic abuse treatment fee, and that fee is based on income. That was actually removed by community services, but it remained on this sheet. They are researching that fee to determine what is best course of action going forward. They do believe they have some outside funding to get us through for a while until we know exactly how that's going to apply.
So it'll remain on there?
It will not remain in the fee schedule. It will be removed from the fee schedule.
Very good.
Mr. Chair, you do have a resolution in your packet to adopt the fee schedules changes for 2022.
I would look for a motion to approve.
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Hoag, second by Commissioner Franzine. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine? Aye. Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye, that motion passes. Move on to number 7, modification to the landfill operating agreement. Mr. Simonson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. We have a 10-year agreement with our 10-year operating agreement to run our landfill with our landfill operator, and annually that agreement can be reviewed and modified with mutual agreement amongst both parties. And what we have here is a couple of modifications to the revenue split for recycled mattresses and recycled electronics. The previous split was a percentage. It was 43% would go to the landfill operator, and the new proposal is a fixed fee of $5 for mattresses and $3 for electronics.
Any questions? Hearing no questions, I would look for a motion to approve.
Move approval.
I'll move that.
Commissioner Hoag makes the motion to approve. Commissioner Coring seconds that motion. Therese, if you'd call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine? Aye. Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye, that motion passes.
Thank you.
Move on to 8.1, public hearing, purchase of body cameras. I would look for a motion to open the public hearing. Motion by Commissioner Franzine.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hoag. Therese, if you'd call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine? Aye. Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye, that motion passes. Is there anyone wishing to speak to the purchase of body cameras for the Sheriff's Department?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Coring.
Yeah, my question is why are we having a hearing? Are we required to have a hearing on this, yes, the purchase of these body cameras, or why is there a public hearing on that?
I believe we are, but Administrator Houle, if you would like to back me up on that.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Coring, the chair is correct. There is a requirement to hold a public hearing before the board would adopt a policy regarding body cameras.
Okay. I thought, so this is the adoption of a policy and or buying the body cameras also, right?
It is to require their usage.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Commissioner Coring to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Franzine. Therese, if you'd call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Franzine? Aye. Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. That motion passes. We'll move on to 8.2, which is the actual purchase of the body cameras. Captain Cronstead. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Unless you have any specific questions, I don't know that I have anything specific to address, other than we are requesting the purchase of body cameras. I have done some research on vendors as to who would be best suited to outfit us here in Crow Wing County. I've had a number of quotes, and we decided to go with Axon. They weren't the most expensive, they weren't the least expensive. However, they are the most proven, and we have some of those systems already in use in Crow Wing County, namely Brainerd Police Department, our Crow Wing County Attorney's Office already has access to the evidence software that they use, so it just was kind of a no-brainer for me as far as a seamless transition into having us use that software for our recording. I have policy written. It needs to obviously be finalized, but essentially it's going to mirror a policy already in place at the Brainerd Police Department and our current recording policy. So if there's any specific questions as to why now, why not a long time ago, or why this platform, or why do you want to do it in the first place, I'm here for that.
Questions for the captain?
Mr. Chair, Adam, the body cameras are budgeted, correct?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Hearing no questions, I would look for a motion to approve the purchase of body cameras by the County Sheriff's Office.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hoag.
Second. Second.
Second by Commissioner Coring. Therese, if you'd call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. That motion passes. Any remarks by the county sheriff? Don't have any of those. County attorney already? You have
Nothing further. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. County administrator.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, there was no senior management team meeting on Monday for lack of agenda items. Happy to answer any questions you may have about that or any other items related to county government.
Any questions for Administrator Hool? Hearing none, we'll move on to 11.2, which is the appointments to Serpent Lake Sanitary Sewer District Board of Directors. I would need a motion to approve.
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Hoag to approve.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Franzine. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. That motion passes. 11.3 is the Citizen Committee appointments. We have a couple of those. The chair will make those appointments. Appreciate the individuals.
Are these all ready for appointment? Have we contacted these folks and we know that they're going to serve?
On the screen, we have one in Commissioner Coring's district and then a couple in Commissioner Hoag's district. You're ready with any of those?
Don Hales,
Okay.
for planning and zoning, yes.
So for clarification, Ryan Cerny, Brittany Schwartz, and Don Hales have accepted. Is that correct?
I'm not sure. Yep, okay.
Okay, so then it's District 5 just has the NRAC and TAC to address. And I have made those appointments.
Thank you.
Any additional business? I would like to say Happy New Year to all of our staff, to the other board members. I want to thank you all for the last year plus that I've sat in this chair. I will be happy to move to another chair in the coming year. I have appreciated the support shown by everyone. I want to thank you very much. And again, Happy New Year.
Thank you, Mr.
With
Chair.
that, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Franzine to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hoag. Therese, if you'd make that last roll call for me, please.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you again, everyone.